Kings and queens, sometimes life throws us into places we never asked for. Places that hurt, places that feel heavy, places that seem endless. And if you're not careful, we start to find comfort in that pain. Yes, the dung. Today, we are going to talk about finding comfort in the dung, why we stay there and how to break free. This is episode 14 of the Bounce Back Voice podcast, and I'm Alice Githui. It's an honor and privilege to have this conversation with you. By the end of this episode, you will say with me, I refuse to stay in the dung. When life hits hard, people ask questions. Why are you failing in school? Why did you give up? Why are you always angry or withdrawn? And we answer, because I am an orphan, because I was abused, because life hit me too hard. And then the pity party begins. Kings and queens, I know this story well. When my mother passed away, just as I entered my teenage years, my world collapsed. Childhood ended instantly. I became a mother to my younger sister, a helper to my father, and the one responsible for everything: cooking, cleaning, carrying 20-liter buckets of water for the vegetable garden. Life moved fast, too fast for me, and I felt robbed of my childhood. For years, I stayed in that pain. I built walls around myself. I replayed the story everywhere I went because pity felt safer than confronting the grief. It wasn't until my brother died years later, when I had to identify his body alone in the mortuary, that I realized I could no longer stay there. Grief therapy helped me climb out, not just from my brother's death, but from my mother's too. And my friends, I wish someone told me earlier that staying in the psychological, emotional, social, financial, and spiritual dung can cripple your destiny. Before we talk about healing, we must understand why people remain stuck. Here are 5 psychological reasons people stay in the dung. 1. Pain becomes familiar. The mind is meant to keep you safe. It prefers the familiar over the unknown, even if the familiar hurts. People stay in comfortable misery because stepping out requires faith and discomfort. Some people have stayed in toxic relationships, jobs, and family patterns for decades simply because it felt normal. 2. The story becomes identity. When you repeat a story for years, for example, my mother died, I was abused, I was abandoned, it slowly becomes who you think you are. Stepping out means asking, who am I without this story? Many people fear that question more than the pain itself. Number 3, pity feels like love. The attention, sympathy, and support from others feels comforting. Psychologists call it secondary gain. Pity becomes a reward, and without realizing it, people start depending on it. A friend told me once, sometimes it feels safer to stay sad. People notice me when I am sad. Sounds familiar? That's why pity can be a trap. Number 4, avoidance protects but also traps. Healing requires revisiting the wound, feeling the pain again and again, facing what you've buried deep inside. The brain wants to protect you, so it pushes you towards avoidance. But that same avoidance becomes a prison that keeps you stuck. Number 5, healing requires responsibility, and responsibility hurts. Living the dung means you must act, you must forgive, you must confront your heart. You must rise. And because healing often hurts before it helps, many people choose to remain where they are, in pain. But dear brothers and sisters, you can choose differently. You can say with me, I refuse to stay in the dung. Your friends, family, pastors, teachers, mentors, all these can support you, but they cannot climb out for you. At some point, you must say, enough is enough. I cannot stay here anymore. Like David in 1 Samuel chapter 30. He returned from war, only to find his city burnt down. His wives and children were taken. His men were discouraged. He wept. But then he encouraged himself in the Lord. He asked God, shall I pursue? Shall I overtake? And God said, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them and recover all. David could have stayed in the dung of despair, but he chose to rise. He chose to pursue. He chose to recover. And he did. And so can you. Ask yourself today, what dung have I been living in? Psychological, emotional, social, financial, or spiritual? What story have I replayed for too long? What pity have I grown addicted to? What responsibility have I avoided? What healing have I postponed because facing the pain feels too heavy for me? Healing begins the moment you decide to move. You may not feel strong, but strength will meet you on the way. You may not feel ready, but God equips those who decide to rise. Just don't stay in the dung. Say it with me again. I refuse to stay in the dung. People stay in the dung not because they are weak, but because the mind makes pain feel familiar, identity-shaped, and safe. Kings and queens, the moment you choose to rise, God empowers your steps. You can pursue and you can overtake, and you can recover all. If this episode has spoken to your heart, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a gentle push out of their own dung. Remember, you're not alone. You can bounce back from anything. Just decide to get out of the dung. This has been Alice Githui. I've enjoyed having that conversation with you. See you in episode 15 of the Bounce Back Voice podcast.